Hello everyone. As you can probably tell from the title and thumbnail of this video, this is a slightly different video today. As some of you may have realised, I'm a big Chelsea fan, and today we've got the shocking news that Lampard has been sacked. I just thought I needed to share my thoughts on it because I'm a bit annoyed about it. It's at the very least a questionable decision. I'm also going to try a different sort of way of doing the video. Doing a live commentary this time. The game I'm going to be playing is Halo. It's nothing to do with football or Chelsea or anything. I just like playing Halo. But I'm not very good at multitasking, so this could go horribly wrong. Anyway, back to Frank Lampard and Chelsea. But yeah, this is an issue that has plagued Chelsea for a while now. Managers always get the boot. We know this, but it's getting ridiculous. What was the stat? Apparently, was it like 14 managers since Abramovich took over? That's insane. I've lost bloody count. But just look at how the players have been playing recently. It's been appalling. Not just performance-wise, but they just seem to give up. And this isn't the first manager who's done this under. Conte was a big one for me. I was a massive fan of his. Yet the players completely let him down. He wasn't a bad manager, but he got sacked for it. Sarri, I to be honest, wanted Sarri to get sacked, but he was still let down badly by the players. Yo, can we find a game, please? Like there is a rotten attitude at Chelsea. That players seem to turn on the manager way too easily, and they seem to get away with it without punishment. It's getting ridiculous. Ever since Mourinho got sacked for the second time, that's when alarm bells started ringing. The players completely turned on him, and then the game after that, they started trying again. Happened under Conte, happened under Sarri, happened under Lampard, and we got Tuchel coming in now, however you pronounce it, and they're going to do the same to him. I give him 2.5 years at best. A year and a half is probably more realistic. We might have a good season next year, but when the players get fed up with it, then they'll turn on him as well. This thing came out about Conte where apparently players didn't like his training session. They didn't like his training sessions where they apparently it was too tiring. I remember something about that. Well, you're a professional footballer. How about you try harder? Where is this game? Surely there's got to be someone playing Halo 3. I've got a couple of screenshots here from Give Me Sports where they talk about like what was going on behind the scenes. Desire to re-sign Declan Rice annoyed his bosses. In December, The Athletic were told he needs to stop pushing for Rice or he'll lose his job. The hierarchy are very wary about the potential embarrassment of buying back an academy reject at huge expense. Well, I'm sorry, but first of all, we shouldn't have let him go, obviously. Secondly, letting our rivals buy former players of ours is certainly not bitten us in the arse in the past, has it? Here's another one. The dressing room felt the manager showed no empathy and were hurt by his public criticism. A senior player told The Athletic that it would have been a catastrophe if Lampard stayed on with the high tension levels from criticism in the media. What criticism? That one game where he said that they didn't work hard enough, which they didn't. He's been very generous in the media to you guys. He really should have been shitting all over you because you have been disgraceful. It's not a case of, just performance levels have dropped. It's been a case of you weren't even trying. Do you remember the Man City game? Do you remember the De Bruyne goal that they scored when Ziyech took that free kick and they cleared it and with one player back? We needed to sprint back immediately. What did Ziyech do? He went on the floor, pretending he had an injury so he didn't have to run back. You can't blame Lampard for that. That's Ziyech's fault. Why is he not running back? Sprint back with everything you've got. Then there was the goal itself where Kovacic was on the line in front of De Bruyne, who was about 5 yards out just to tap it in. And what does Kovacic do? Instead of hurling himself in front of the ball, he just stands there and watches the ball go past him and waves it goodbye. How is that acceptable? How can you blame Lampard for stuff like that? Lack of concentration as well with set pieces. Look at Leicester. They played a corner short and they cut it back to Ndidi. And they just stand there and watch. Like, it's so poor that you've just got to question it sometimes. I've got a list of players here that fucking let him down. Kepa. I mean, I don't need to say anything about him, do I? Alonso. Awful. Emerson. Awful. Rudiger has downed tools and been a disgrace recently. Like, Remember the Sheffield United games and the West Ham game at the end of last season? How bad was he? He's just, what the hell? Where, can I find a game, please? Fuck it, let's look for some infection. Christensen. Probably the worst defender I have ever seen. I wouldn't take him at Southend United, for God's sake. I'm a better footballer than he is. He is so weak, mentally and physically. He will not do anything for anyone. Thank you, at last I found someone. Who else? Zuma. Awful. I don't care he scored 4 goals for us this season. He was awful against Luton, and he's just ball playing. So he's strong. Great. Hasn't got a brain about him. Kovacic, great on the ball. Absolutely awful off it. Does not give a damn. I bet he's the one bitching and moaning to the media. Okay? Him or Drinkwater. More on him later. Jorginho, awful under Sarri. Awful under Lampard. Awful at passing. Doesn't do anything. Who else has it been? Pulisic has turned into Pedro, you know, running around like a headless chicken. And anytime he gets the football, his heart is going like a million miles an hour. It's terrible. Who else? Ziyech. Okay, I don't know what. He clearly doesn't care about working off the ball. Clearly. I don't know if it's just his face in general, but any time I see him, anytime it's not going his way, he's always doing his face. He walks around like that. Okay, like that. Why? Maybe that is just his face. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. His face reflects his work rates, okay? Who else have we got? Havertz. I mean, he's a young man. I get it. It's difficult, okay? Coming into a new league, foreign country, everything. When you're that young, at least try a bit. Werner, mentally weak. I feel sorry for Timo Werner, okay? Ouch. He's been so... Even when he was doing well, I had my doubts over him, okay? Whenever anything goes, he is really turning into Morata. He's basically right now Morata without headers. Ends up feeling sorry for himself instead of getting going again. Come on. Yes. No, yes. There's such a lack of leadership on the pitch as well. When Werner missed the penalty against Luton, he had his head down. Like you need to. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult for you. I know it's hard missing these chances, but come on, you've got to move on. That everyone just lets their heads drop. No one seems to want to fight. They just give up. These guys are mentally fragile. That's being generous. But no one was comforting Werner when he missed it. No one thought, come on, mate, let's go again. No one thought that, did they? They all just walked away from him, abandoned him. And it's just going to keep happening. Tuchel, 2.5 years at best. He's not going to last longer than that because the players will inevitably turn on him when something doesn't go their way. It's the easiest thing to do. And while we're on it, why are we hiring Tuchel? Allegri's free, and I think he would be a better option. Let's look at the facts, okay? Sacked at his last 2 clubs, Dortmund and PSG. PSG is literally the easiest job in world football. Okay, it's an easy league for PSG. It's so easy. Come on. Yes. Come on. Triple! I know we got into a Champions League final, but seriously, they should have got to a Champions League final way sooner than that. And there's this, if you look at the Gimme Sport, and I'm zombie again? I'm a zombie again? Really? If you look at the Gimme Sport thing, there's stuff about how Lampard fell out with people behind the scenes. Just look at Tuchel on Wikipedia, okay? He fell out with people behind the scenes at Dortmund. So why is this your appointment now? I know, is he like, surely he's not the only one free. Honestly, it feels like Tuchel is a big name, and we want a big name. And PSG is a club where like players seem to have power as well. Not power like Chelsea, but too much influence. Or they can get away with what they want. Like Neymar, for instance, just can go on holiday to see his sister and make out of her. So the big issue at Chelsea really is player power. So we're going to bring in a manager who has a history of not being able to deal with player power. So this issue is not going away today, that's for sure. This issue is not going to get sorted out by Tuchel coming in. He is getting sacked within 2.5 years. I promise you. I know it sounds like a bit of a joke, but honestly, like bring in Big Sam for like a week or something so we can give them an absolute rocket, because that's what they need. Not some tactical manager. We had Mourinho, we had Conte. That didn't work. We need someone who can give them an absolute freaking rocket up the arse, okay? Someone who can really get into these guys, make them upset, make them grow up. Grow up! Tell them how it is. They can't just keep running to the club anytime the manager upsets them or like does something that they don't want to do or things get a bit tricky. They need someone to tell them that's not good enough. But with Tuchel coming in, the players are they're not gonna like his methods after a while. If we somehow win something, I'll be delighted if we won the Premier League or the Champions League or anything at this rate. But if we did do that, then teams will start coming at us more. We'll lose a couple of games. We'll be under a bit of pressure. And these players, they're very mentally weak. At best, they don't care about Chelsea. Look at the likes of Alonso, Rudiger, and Kovacic and Ziyech. They don't care about Chelsea, not at all. They're here for the money. There's no question they do not care in the slightest about the football club. They won't work hard for him when things get tough. Definitely not. And you've got players who just aren't good enough and are mentally fragile. For instance, Kepa, Christensen, Zuma, Jorginho, Werner, Havertz. These guys are mentally weak, okay, as well as physically weak. They will not fight for the club because they can't. I'm sure some of them don't really care either about the club. It's so easy to blame the manager. Every time something goes wrong, it's the manager's fault. You look at Mourinho, Conte, Sarri, Lampard, and soon to be Tuchel. These aren't all bad managers. Like, we sacked them all. These aren't all bad managers. Maybe, just maybe, there is another issue. Maybe it's the players that could be the issue. It's not always the manager's fault. And the players, they can get away with it. They can get away with not being good enough, being too fragile. You say, oh, the manager needs to work with them. The manager can only do so much. He sets out a team, yeah, sure, but when it's on the pitch, it's about the players. And the players are not working hard enough, or they crumble under the pressure. These guys need therapy, not a manager. They need therapy. There's a bare minimum standard for players to reach, and some of them just aren't getting anywhere near it. And there's all this talk about player unrest. Like, it's one thing not to be happy. It's one thing. I can understand that. Sometimes you just got to put up with it, or you leave the club if you're really that unhappy. Please, if you're really that unhappy, don't just down tools on the pitch. That's the worst thing you could do. You're not just letting the manager down who you don't like. You're letting all the fans down. I wish that the fans were allowed back into the stadiums. Remember when Mourinho got sacked the second time? And in the first game back, the fans booed some of the players. I remember really well, Oscar had done nothing that season under Mourinho. And yet all of a sudden he was working his socks off. And he was one of the players who was getting booed badly. I wish that the fans were allowed in for this one game. Because that way they could boo the likes of Kovacic and all those other idiots. But you have to at least fight for the club. At least fight for the fans. Even if you don't like the manager. If you don't like the manager and he's still there at the end, beyond the end of the season, leave. Also, Lampard's big thing was that he was promoting youth, which he did very well. And may I remind you that none of the academy players, none of the youth players, none of the young players, none of the kids, none of them let him down. They all played well. Players who cared and would run for the club. Why didn't any of the senior players, or barely any of the senior players, when you had likes of Giroud who would run still and put in a shift, not many others. And there was also this thing in that Give Me Sport article about how he tried to replace Kepa and how the hierarchy didn't like that. But of course he fucking did. Of course he tried to replace Kepa. Have you seen him? And also, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who's been under huge pressure at United, but they stuck with him, and now they're doing well. Now they're top of the league. I mean, they won't win the Premier League. They won't, because there's just no way they will. But still, and for all it's worth, Lampard's a better manager than Solskjaer. At least that's how I feel. How can Solskjaer get time, but not Lampard? And now they're getting the rewards for it, whereas us, we're going to sack Tuchel in a year and a half, aren't we? Or 2.5 years. Oh, and Danny Drinkwater. If any of you didn't realise, Danny Drinkwater, pretty much as soon as the news broke that Lampard got sacked, he posted a picture of him celebrating in a Leicester City shirt as well. So he obviously timed that. He obviously doesn't like Lampard. I can tell you right now, Drinkwater, it doesn't matter who's coming in, that you're not playing for us ever again. We're going to keep most of these players. We're going to keep these players who let Lampard down. We're going to keep them around. They might do well for the rest of the season. They might do well for the next season, but after that, there's no way they can sustain it. They have an attitude problem. Something stinks at Chelsea, and I don't like it. And it will carry over until something severe changes. We need big changes. Don't just sack the manager and think that's it. Don't just think, oh, it's going to be the end of it because we sacked Lampard. No, this is just, at best, like a little break from all the crap. Whoever comes in will have to put up with the same issues. They will get sacked. And that's the end, and then we move on to the next one. The next unlucky guy who foolishly decides, oh, Chelsea want me. That's a great job. No, it is the least secure job aside from Watford. We're basically a bigger version of Watford. That's ridiculous. I'm severely bored of this game right now. Can we... Screw this. It's the players, not the manager. They can walk away scot-free with their heads held high, being paid all that money, even though they're the ones laying the club down and the fans down. And Lampard has to take responsibility for that. If you're going to bring someone in who can just say it how it is. These players are mentally weak, do not care, and are just fragile in every way. And unless changes happen, this will go on and on and on. You might as well shut down the academy now because there's no way it's going to be there's no way anyone's going to promote youth anymore. They're just going to go back to buying players, splashing all the cash. I would love more than anything to be wrong, you know. I would so love to be wrong about this, but I'm not. I know we're going to get let down. You might say, oh, James, show a bit of positivity. I tried being positive in one season. We came 10th. I'm not being positive anymore because I know Chelsea. Good God, I hope Tuchel doesn't buy a house in London. Just rent somewhere, mate. Might as well stay in a hotel. You're not going to last long. No offense. I'm just straight up sad about it. Like, I really wanted it to work. Fuck. I really wanted it to work for Lampard. I still believe it could have. He's not a bad manager. People say, oh, he took Derby from 6th to 6th. Championship's tough. Okay. He got him to the playoff final. That's closer than they got before that, anyway. Simply to sustain a position in the Championship, a high position as well, is pretty good. And also, he beat the crap out of Leeds in the playoff semi-final. That was fun. Like, before Lampard was sacked, I've seen a lot of criticism of him from fans. Like, you're entitled to your opinion, but don't just blame him just for everything. Don't just think, I'll get rid of him, and then we'll all be good. Bring in some big name, then we'll win everything. No, it's not how it works. I like to think this hasn't ruined Lampard's legacy at Chelsea at all. I like to think that he's still held in high regard. And even as a manager, I hold him in high regard. He did not do a bad job while he was here. Got us to 4th with no transfers. And everyone was giving him a lot of credit for that. Deservedly so as well. And this season, he was done dirty. I don't know, he was backstabbed in my opinion. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you disagree with what I'm saying, or you agree, or have changed your mind about anything, or if you hate me. I don't know if I'll do any more videos like these. If you like them, then fine. If not, I'll stop forever. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and see ya.